It is clear that security and stability and economic isolation go hand in hand. We actually have an incredible record as the United States foreign policy and economic diplomatic initiatives around the world to work with the world and hopefully improve the conditions so that we have swamps that are drained and terrorism can't take hold.
Since this has turned into sort of a broad sort of discussions on platitudes and foreign policy, just want to very quickly, take the other side of this. That this administration refused to directly talk with anybody who refuses to meet their set of preconditions and under any circumstances. And the couple of times when they actually did so, like for instance with regards to Iran, what's happening with the Shiite militias in Iraq, that's what and the multilateral talks in North Korea, that's what yielded the results. There have been reduced foreign aid. The Republicans have attempted to reduced foreign aid across the board, everywhere except for one area, the war in Iraq. We now have $24 billion in foreign aid all around the world, which is about how much it costs to run the war 2 months in Iraq. And not because of support with regards to our military, it's because of these bloated contractors such as Blackwater, Halliburton, amongst others, that are getting the lion's share, a significant portion of this money. And this administration has refused to hold them accountable and make sure the money is being spent. There are billions of dollars that have not been accounted for in Iraq. They don't know where it went. And when we talk a little bit about some of the free trade agreements, I've been educated a little bit more about them, although I personally tend to be more in favor of free trade as a general approach, as do most of the Democratic candidates. But when you have poorly drafted sections saying that if, let's say, an American company takes a Canadian company to court, like what happened with the MTBEs here in this country, do you remember that, in California, where these MTBEs, which are made in Canada, the main company that makes them is in Canada. California banned them because of its effect on the environment. Well, the Canadian company can now go in to an arbitrator that doesn't have to publish its decision and require the United States reimburse them for the cost of the lost business. We need to be, free trade is a good thing, but the way that this administration has been free trade with no oversight whatsoever. International labor standards continue to drop. We have things coming in from toys coming in from China with lead, and meanwhile this administration, including the head of the commission that's supposed to be overseeing this, is telling them we don't need the staff. Whose interest do they really have in mind? I don't feel like they're watching out for me or necessarily anyone that I know.
To Larry, why have why have so many Jewish Republican supporters of Israel failed to protest President Bush's broken promise to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
So it's a good question. As a supporter of moving our embassy to Israel's capital, I'm disappointed as well. This was a bill that passed in 1995. That Bob Dole pushed, Senator Dole, Republican, and actually Senator Feinstein said she would support it, and then she didn't, which was a double switch against the pro-Israel community. And unfortunately, since that time, both under President Clinton and President Bush, they've always, every 6 months, they have to explain that it's not quite right time to move the embassy. I would certainly join those who call for moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
The House actually passed a resolution this year, again reminding the President of his obligations under the Jerusalem Embassy Act, something which we really didn't see much under the Republicans. The truth of the matter is we both know that politicians come to us from both sides and say, I'm going to do it, and then when they get elected, they don't do it. But it is important that we, Democrat or Republican, remind this administration and future administrations of that promise and that obligation, because Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And actually, my organization, Democrats for Israel, has been involved with filing friend of the court briefs with regards to the United States State Department. When people are born in Jerusalem, they don't say you're born in Jerusalem, Israel. They just say you're born in Jerusalem. And several people have sued to get that changed. And my organization has been proud to be a part of that effort to recognize Jerusalem as what it should be, the capital of Israel.
You want to rebut? No. to Andrew. The Olmert administration is extremely unpopular in Israel right now and unlikely to survive much longer. If it's replaced by an administration that no longer wants to pursue a two-state solution, do you believe the Democratic candidates, if one of them were elected to be president, would be supportive of Israel, or would it attempt to pressure Israel to implement a two-state solution, despite its objection?
Well, with the exception of one or two parties that I can think of, even Likud supports a two-state solution. They just don't believe that they've got a partner for peace in front of them. So I view that as highly unlikely. I do know that, for instance, when Yitzhak Shamir refused to negotiate with or talk with the Palestinians, George Bush threatened to cut off housing guarantees. I don't think a Democratic president would do that sort of thing because they recognize the importance of support of Israel. And we don't want to have a repeat of 1973 when you have, again, Nixon Secretary of State Rogers threatening to cut off aid to Israel if we wouldn't do what the Nixon administration wanted. And there's some people who feel that may have led to the 1973 war because they believe that the United States was backing off its support of Israel. Every Democrat I know of who has the chance of winning, and I don't count Dennis Kucinich or Gravel amongst those, has been very clear that they stand by the relationship with Israel and support its efforts to live in a secure peace with its neighbors, how it sees best.
So this would be a short chance to clean up on one particular issue that I didn't want to leave unaddressed, which was the claim that House Republicans voted against aid to Israel. There was a vote on final passage of a bill containing all the funds for the Department of State and foreign aid. There was never a standalone vote on aid to Israel. The Washington Post reported that the Democrat leaders of the House made a calculated decision to insert into a bill a divisive abortion-related provision after they had been warned that the provision, overturning long-standing prohibitions on subsidies for overseas abortion, would guarantee a presidential veto. The bill was supported by a significant number of Republicans anyways, and opposed by a significant number of Democrats. In nearly every instance, the defections or support tracked with the members' various views on abortion. Republicans wrote to AIPAC to affirm their support for the Israel aid package, making it clear that they looked forward to voting for legislation that once again provided such funding without the shenanigans that the Democrats had put into it. This has happened again. On the issue of Turkey, the Democrats, right at the worst possible moment, pushed forward something very meretricious, which was the commemoration of the 1915 genocide of Armenians by then Ottoman Empire Turkey. Right when the PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, had an incursion into Turkey, and Turkey was nervous and threatening to move into Iraq, that's when the Democrats decided to push forward the bill commemorating a 1915, that's a century ago, horrible genocide of the Armenians, which all of us obviously condemn. This is a repeated pattern now by this Democratic Congress, which is to take important moments in national security, foreign aid to Israel, the situation in Iraq, and politicize them for partisan purposes, and it's shameful.
You know, it's funny because the Mexico City Declaration was put in by a Republican Congress, and at the time, Democratic Congress members and Democratic president complained and said, you know, look, we don't think it's right that you're doing this. And by the way, it's not abortion, it's just contraceptives. It's making family services, planning services available to making aid available to family planning for family planning services to non-governmental organization. It's not abortion. That being said, when that first got passed in the early 90s, Democrats voted for aid to Israel even though it was in that because they believed that aid to Israel was more important. That was their most important obligation. But when the Republicans were given that opportunity to say, you know something, we're concerned about family planning, but aid to Israel is more important, they came up short. I would also add that out of the 169 people that representatives that voted against that bill, 146 of them were Republicans. That's not a lot of Democrats. That's a very small number of Democrats. In addition, the Republican leadership also pushed for the Price Amendment, named for Price from Georgia,